Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 338. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today I'm going to talk about goal setting, because I realized I've never actually talked about that. I talk a lot about my year-end planning, I talk a lot about my year-end review, but I haven't really talked about goal setting. And this week's episode was inspired by a conversation I had with someone online, which led me to reflect on how sadly uneducated I was about goal setting for the vast majority of my life. It really wasn't until I was in my late 30s and I trained as a coach that I really learned proper goal setting and how to apply it to my life. And that changed everything. That was really a before and after point in my life. I know I have a lot of those. But really, it's no wonder that I spent so many years just kind of drifting through life and letting things happen to me and not having a really great life because I wasn't planning in the right way and making the right decisions for myself. And yeah, I achieved a lot of great things in those years, but honestly, it would have been a lot faster and easier if I just planned more in advance, which I think is why I'm so obsessed with planning now. I realize how much easier life has been and how much nicer life has been because I take the time to plan what I want to experience. So if you've listened to any previous episodes, especially the ones from the end of the year, you know that goal setting and planning is a massive part of my annual year-end review and plan for the next year. And honestly, I wouldn't get anything done, or very much done, without it. I am really, really goal-oriented. I take a lot of time each year to plan the future year, to really look at what I want to achieve, what I want to experience. And if I didn't do that, I'd probably just sit around and let stuff happen to me. And that's not great. So before we get into today's episode, I wanted to say thank you, a massive thank you to Rosie, new patron, and also invite you to join me on Patreon. If you get value from this podcast, I would love for you to head over there and support me to help support the production of this show. If you head over to patreon.com/Holly Worton, you can join me there. Membership starts at just $1 a month, and you get exclusive access to stuff I don't share anywhere else. So that is it. Let's get into the episode. So, goal setting. It's not something I learned in school. It's not something I think a lot of people learned in school. And I think it's shocking that this very, very important life skill is just left to, I don't know, if you're lucky enough to hear about it and really learn the strategy. It's not hard. It's really basic. And I've been doing it for so many years now, it's just really integrated into my life. But it wasn't that way. It wasn't that way for most of my life. So, as I said, as a result of this conversation with this person online, I realized a lot of people just don't know how to do this stuff. And I think the question had come about because they had asked, what do you do when you feel like you're not achieving your potential? And my answer was, I set goals, I achieve them, I set new goals. And that's obviously a more simplified version than the reality, but that's what it all boils down to. So how do you set goals? How do you achieve goals? How do you make that happen? Here's what I do. I look at what I want to experience in life. So ask yourself, what do you want to experience in life? Journal on it. Look at what you want to experience this year, next year, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I did a blog post, previous podcast episode on this, and I'm starting to add to the show notes a new section called Related Episodes. This is something that I've started adding to my new business mindset books. And so I wanted to add this to each podcast episode in the show notes because a lot of times I talk about similar things to things that I've discussed before, but not exactly the same. So episode 325 was all about life goals and planning for each decade of your life. So if you want some ideas on how to set goals and how to look at what you want to experience in the long term, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, that episode might help you. So think about what you want to experience in life. To me, this is the basis of goal setting. So ask yourself, what do you want to be, do, have? How do you want to feel in life? And then use that to create a list of personal and professional goals. To me, the trick is finding what you want to experience in life and then looking at what you need to do to make that happen. So something that a lot of people often do, almost half of at least the American population, according to sources I found online, is make New Year's resolutions. And around this time of year, you often find people saying, here's why I don't make New Year's resolutions. Here's why New Year's resolutions don't work. So I thought it was really important to explore how goals are different from New Year's resolutions. They're very similar. New Year's resolutions are kind of a type of goal, but they're not really. So let's look at some statistics on New Year's resolutions. According to various sources I found online, about 45% of Americans, at least, make New Year's resolutions. However, only 8% of them are successful in their resolutions. That's not very good. The top 5 New Year's resolutions are weight loss, getting organized, spending less, saving more, enjoying life to the fullest, living a life of fulfillment, and getting healthy. So, how are goals different than New Year's resolutions? Let's pick some of these apart. Lose weight. What does that mean? Like, if you lose 1 pound, is that good enough? A very common way of writing goals or creating goals is using the SMART goal method. And this is something that I'm sure you've heard before, but if you haven't, look it up. SMART goals mean that your goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So what does that mean? Lose weight. That's not specific. So get specific. How much weight do you want to lose? Or how much do you want to weigh? So if you weigh 150 pounds and you want to weigh 130 pounds, you have 2 ways of wording that. You could say that you want to lose 20 pounds, but I think a better way of doing it is looking at what you want to be, which is you want to weigh 130 pounds. Personally, that's how I would do it. Measurable, that's clearly something that you can measure. You need to weigh yourself, step on a scale, and you will know how much you weigh. Is it attainable? Yeah, that's doable. Is it realistic? Well, it depends on what your deadline is, which leads us to the next bit, which is time-bound. So you need to set a goal for a date for when you want to achieve the goal. So say you want to lose 20 pounds in a month. Probably not realistic. 2 months, probably realistic, depending on what you're doing. 3 months, definitely realistic. So, look at playing around with different deadlines to make your goal more realistic and attainable. Get organized. What the heck does that mean? Does get organized mean like decluttering your office, using a calendar to organize your schedule? What does that mean to you? Get organized. You need to be really specific. And again, it needs to be something you can measure. It needs to be something you can attain. And it needs to be realistic and time-bound. Like when do you want to get organized by? Again, what does that mean, get organized? What does that mean to you? Maybe that means like organizing the shelves on your bookcase. I say this as I look over at my bookcase, which needs organizing once again. I keep buying books and the bookcase keeps getting really disorganized. So that's something I could add. So spend less, save more. What does that mean? You need to create a budget. Like, how much less do you want to spend? How much do you want to be spending? How much do you want to be saving every month? You need to get really specific with that goal. It is definitely something that you can measure. it's definitely attainable. Is it realistic? I don't know. It depends on how much you want to spend, how much you want to save, and timely. Start looking at like, when are you going to achieve these different breakdowns of the goals? So maybe you want to save 1,000, whatever is your local currency, 2,000, 3,000. Like, whether or not that's realistic has to do with when you want to achieve these goals by. Live a fulfilling life, enjoy life to its fullest. What does that mean to you? Maybe that means having a job that you enjoy. Maybe that means building your own business. Maybe that means having a family. Like, you need to break that down into very specific things. And again, you want them to be measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Get healthy. What does that mean to you? Does that have to do with losing weight? Does that have to do with eating different types of foods or not eating different types of foods? Does that have to do with exercising on a regular basis? How often? So again, you need to break these resolutions down to specific goals that work for you, that are meaningful to you. So that is the kind of the basic difference, in my opinion, between New Year's resolutions and goals. New Year's resolutions are often really vague. They are not specific. And yeah, that's why people don't achieve them, in my opinion. So how are goals different from New Year's resolutions? They are specific. They are measurable. They are attainable. They are realistic, and they are time-bound. The thing that distinguishes goals from dreams is that they have a deadline. Deadlines are really important. When do you want to achieve this by? So the other important thing to do with your goal setting is to write it down so you can refer to it often. It is said, and I don't know who did this study, or there probably wasn't a study, but it is said very commonly that people with written goals are 50% more likely to achieve their goals. And if you look at your goals every day, you're even more likely to achieve your goals. So when you're setting your goals, look at them from many different angles. So take into account how much time you're going to have to dedicate to them, how much money you're going to have to invest in them. How's that going to impact your life? And all of this, asking these questions will help you figure out how realistic your goals are. So how much time are they going to take? How much money are they going to take? How is it going to impact your relationships, the rest of your life? If you decide that at the cost of everything else, you're going to, go to med school, that's a lot of years. If you have, a partner and 5 kids, that's going to be really, really difficult. It might not be realistic. Or it might be realistic if your kids are all adults and they're all grown up, but it's going to cost money. So again, you need to consider these goals from many different angles and consider how they're going to impact your current life. And are you willing to experience that impact? Because a lot of times we set goals, or we come up with dreams or plans, and we think, oh, it'd be so great if I did this or that. But then once you step into the reality of doing the things you need to do to achieve these goals, you realize, this is impacting my life in a way that I don't know if I really like it. So it's really important to consider this from all these different angles from before you start to work on the goal, so you can realize whether you really, really want to work on this. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people fail to achieve their goals, is that they didn't consider the impact before they started. So, goals. Write them down. Look at them every day. And create an action plan. So you need to break each goal down into little chunks of little actions that you need to take in order to achieve the goals. Pulling up, I feel like I've talked to you about my plans for this year like 1,000 times already. So I have set, one of my goals is to publish second editions of all of my business mindset books this year. So what do I need to do to make that happen? I need to do at least one workcation a month. I need to hire someone to design the workbooks. I need to hire someone to design the covers. I need to design the interior myself. But before I even get to that point, I need to update all the books. I need to have them edited. I need to have them proofread. Like, there's so many different things I need to do. And if I don't have this project broken down into all those little action chunks, it would be so overwhelming. And I think that's one of the reasons, there are many reasons, why I haven't done this work until now, because it just felt like a big thing and I wasn't really sure it was useful. But when I looked at what I wanted to achieve this year in terms of income streams and where I wanted my money coming in from, I realized that these books are good, but they could be a lot better. And each book, which currently is an ebook, can be turned into 4 different income streams: the ebook, the paperback, the audiobook, and the workbook. So it allows me to help people in different ways, because not everyone likes ebooks. And it allows me to create multiple income streams into my author business that I don't currently have. So each book becomes 4 income streams. So 4 income streams become 16 income streams. That sounds really exciting. So that's what has made me pick this up and break this project down into little bite-sized chunks so that I can achieve these goals. So that's one example. It's very important to break these goals down into little chunks. And if you look at your goals and if you look at your plans and it still feels overwhelming, that just means you need to break it down into smaller chunks, smaller actions, and block them into your calendar. This is really, really important. You need to make sure that you have enough time to do all this. So one of the things I do when I'm planning my goals for the year is I print out an annual calendar that's like an A4 size, 1 page, and I get a highlighter and I highlight all the stuff that I want to do. So, there are like 2 classes that I've signed up for this year, 3 actually. So I highlight all of those in one color, and then I highlight my workations in another color, and then I highlight like fitness stuff, like kickboxing related stuff in another color. And then I have all this stuff in my calendar at a glance where I can see how booked up my year is. My walk, I want to do quarterly walkations. So I'm going to be walking a couple of long distance trails next year, another shorter trail. And so I've got to get those in the calendar as well, because one of the trails is a 2-week trail, another one is a 1-week trail. These are going to block up big chunks of my year. So I highlight those in a different color. And this is all super helpful in seeing how much free time I have. So that's kind of my year at a glance. Then I take my goals and I put them into my Google Calendar and I block off all the little bits and pieces of time that it's going to take me to achieve these goals. So looking at my calendar for the next couple of weeks is I've got a workation. Well, as I'm recording this, I have a workation coming up, but actually it was last weekend by the time this goes live. Then I've got times blocked out to record the audiobook. And because I've already recorded an audiobook, I have an idea of how long it's going to take. It's hard to do too many chunks at a time. Audio is really tiring, so I've kind of broken that down into many different days. I want to recreate my old muscle testing video that got deleted off of YouTube when my channel died. So I've got some time blocked off for that. I've got time blocked off for doing the project of the book in terms of communicating with my cover designer, communicating with the workbook designer, communicating with the editor, going through the comments from the editor and the proofreader. All this stuff is blocked out in my calendar. So I can see how much time it takes and to reconfirm that I have the time to do this and that my deadlines are reasonable. They are. I think it is doable. I think I'm going to be able to release the first business mindset book, which is Business Beliefs, by the end of the year. I think it's totally doable looking at my calendar. However, if it weren't doable, all I would have to do is just drag and drop stuff around, all these little tasks and my time blocks, and then readjust the deadline. I kind of feel like this was easier if you were actually looking at my screen as I'm talking about this. But you understand the concept. Google Calendar, if you're not using it, it's a really, really important part of how I achieve my goals because that's how I manage my time. So you're going to create an action plan. You're going to make sure that it's doable, and then you do it. You just take the actions step by step. Work your way through the actions to achieve your goals. It's that easy. Except sometimes things can get in the way. Sometimes you need help. Sometimes you need support. You might need an accountability buddy. A lot of people find it really useful to either make their goals public on their blog or have accountability partners or have like a mastermind or a master gut group to help ensure that they achieve their goals, that they do the actions they need to do. I have found this really useful in the past. Now, I don't know, I think I'm getting good at achieving my goals on my own. However, I am working with my coach, Lisa Wechtenheiser. This year, I signed up for her year-long program to get support and accountability as I work through my goals, because I have this really ambitious plan for both publishing and personal goals for this year, and I wanted to make sure that I did the things I needed to do to achieve my goals. So yeah, hire a coach or hire a buddy or work with a friend. Accountability can really help. Again, look at your goals, look at your plan every single day. This is something that I'm not so good at. I printed a copy of my goals. I've got it in my journal. I printed another copy of my goals. Where the heck is it? It's disappeared. I had it sitting. This is fantastic. It has fallen down, I think, in the corner of my desk. I can't see it. Hold on a second. I'm going to pause this and get it because I cannot believe I lost this thing. Okay, you see the importance of having a system that works? My God, I can't believe I'm so glad I did this so that you can see the lack of perfection in my process. So I had printed my publishing calendar, I had printed my month-by-month plan, I had printed my goals on cardstock, and I had put them on my desk in a place where I could see them. And then at some point, when I was reorganizing my desk, I put it on a clipboard, and then it ended up in a place where I completely forgot about it. So, do as I say, not as I do. However, I'm still working through my goals by magic. So, have your goals in a place where you can see them every day. Again, this is not something that I've been doing, but it's something that I need to do. I find it really, really motivating to look at my plan. Clearly, I need to do it more often. But find a way, either hang it on your wall or put it somewhere where you're going to see it every day. Not like me. So look at your goals, look at your plan every day, get help when needed, celebrate when you achieve your goals, celebrate when you achieve your milestones. I'm not that great at doing that. This is definitely an area that I want to improve in. I think it's really important to celebrate when we achieve our goals. I'm going to be putting in a lot of work to my goals this year. And I really, really need to remind myself to celebrate, because otherwise it's so easy to just kind of forget about what you've achieved and move on to the next thing. I often have stuff that's kind of overlapping, like a lot of my goals overlap. It's not linear. It's not like I do this thing and then I achieve it and then I do the next thing. Like stuff's going on all the time. So that's why it's, at least to me, so important to celebrate. And again, I don't celebrate as often as I would like to. I think it would be very useful to celebrate more often, because I think it would give my achievements more weight. So celebrate. So hiccups, like stuff can come up along the way. Again, I think it's really important to consider your goals from many different angles. Take into account how much time, how much effort, how much money, what kind of impact your action plan to achieving these goals will have on your life. That's very, very important. However, stuff can still get in the way. One of them being your mindset. Now, I've done tons of podcast episodes on mindset. A lot of times, our mindset blips, whether they're limiting beliefs, fears, blocks, will come up as we are working through our action plan. So it's really important to pay attention to the mind crap that comes up. You might be afraid of failure. You might be afraid of success. You might find yourself making excuses. You might realize you don't want to leave your comfort zone. This is all mindset stuff. And it really helps to do the mindset work as you are taking the practical action steps to achieve your goals. I often talk about the spiral staircase that we are on as we are working to achieve our goals, working on this path of personal development. One step is your practical action. The next step is your mindset. Practical action, mindset. To me, they go hand in hand, foot in foot. The way I have gotten to where I am today, especially in the last few years, since I started doing this mindset work, is to do both of these together. Like I don't wait to take action and think I need to do the mindset work first. Conversely, I don't force myself to take the action if it's not feeling right. I take the action, see what comes up, do the mindset work. Take new actions, see what comes up, do the new mindset work. It's constantly a path. So mindset stuff could come up. What if someone asks you to do something else with your time? So like, what if someone asks you to reevaluate your priorities? What if someone says, oh, but could you help me out with this? Or could you sign up for that? So this is a time when you need to reevaluate, like, what are your priorities? Your original goals or helping this person out? It could be maybe a friend wants you to sign up for a dance class once a week with her. What's your priority? This dance class or your original goals? So if your original goals are the priority, then you've got to say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I don't have the time. I can't fit it in my schedule. I'm really, really sorry. Maybe further down in the future. But you need to really clearly evaluate what your priorities are. If your goals are your priorities, and if you've mapped out your goals in your plan, your action steps and all that in your calendar, you will see clearly whether or not you have time to do the dance class with your friend. Now again, you need to see how your goals fit into your life. Are you going to drop all of your friendships at the cost of achieving your goals? Maybe. But then what's the cost of that? Like, are you going to end up without any friends at the end of it? Or maybe you can, if you plan properly, say to your friends, look, for the next 3 months, I'm going to be really wrapped up in this plan that I have, and I'll be back to normal after that. Again, this is all possible if you plan. And if you really look at your calendar and see how these goals fit into your current life. This is all about the planning. I love planning. This is why. What if you lose momentum? So again, you need to reevaluate. Is this goal still important to me? If it's not, because things have changed, then drop it. If it is, then just take one action, no matter how small, that will bring you closer to achieving your goal. One step. One step will take you out of a plateau. One step will take you out of a loss of momentum. One step will take you out of procrastination. That is it. One step. What if you have like a million other ideas? So what I do is I write them all down in one place where I keep a list of all the things I want to do. So I have a file in my Evernote of future goals and plans and stuff I want to do. So like this year, when I was planning my year, I knew it was a big, busy year. And I really wanted to go on a wilderness quest. I've been wanting to do this for years. It hasn't happened for various reasons. So I put it on my list in parentheses, because if I happen to have the time to do it, I will. But honestly, I don't think I have the time for that. So I've got that, in addition to being in parentheses on my plans for this year, I've got it on my Evernote of my list of stuff I want to do. I also have an Evernote file for all the courses I want to take, all the stuff I want to learn. So I have all this stuff, all my other ideas down in one place where I keep a list of all the things I want to do. That way I won't forget them and I can add them to my plan for next year or the following year or 5 years from now. What I do when I'm planning my years, I just pick and choose the things that are most important to me that I want to achieve or experience or create or do, and then prioritize, and I pick the most important ones for the next year. Perfectionism. That's another thing that could get in the way. And I kind of feel like perfectionism is a mindset thing. It comes from, not feeling like you're good enough, not feeling like you can ever be good enough. Perfectionism is a mindset thing that I would approach using mindset tools, whether it's Psych-K or something else. There's no such thing as perfect. I'm a big fan of delivering, of being good enough, of doing good enough, of getting it out there, of achieving my goals in the best way that I can, and not seeking perfection, because there's no such thing as perfect. Another thing that can get in the way of you not achieving your goals, or in the way of you achieving your goals, is not bringing it down into small enough steps. I said that earlier, but I think it's really important to highlight. You need to break it down into tiny little chunks. Asana is really good for that. It's a free online system for achieving your goals, so you can create, or projects actually, it's good for project management. So you create a project, you create all the action steps you need to do each project, and then you can break those action steps down into sub-steps. I find it really useful. So I use Asana for all of my books, and specifically for these, going to my Asana now as I talk to you, for all of my second editions that I'm creating. So business beliefs. I told you some of the steps earlier, but I've got all of my little steps down here. I decide on the subtitle, complete the final draft, create the copy for the workbook. There's a chapter that I wanted to add to it, format it, get it proofread, not in that order, get the new cover design, format the workbook, record the audiobook, get book reviews, publish it, and set up Amazon ads for it. So these are all tiny little chunks of things that I can do to achieve this goal of releasing the second edition of my business beliefs book. And the same goes for the other 3 business mindset books. So Asana is, again, free, really, really good for creating projects and achieving your goals. Distractions. If you're getting distracted by other things, that's a sign of not having, your focus on your goals. Again, go back to reading your goals every day and reevaluate your goals. Like if you're getting distracted by other things, what are these other things that are distracting you? Is it stuff like social media? If so, how can you spend less time on social media? You can download apps that will block social media during certain hours. You can restrict your time on your phone for certain types of apps. There are lots of things you can do to kind of physically remove those distractions from your computer or your phone. Maybe you're getting distracted by, friends. Maybe you need to have a talk with them about how you really love spending time with them and you love going out, a few nights a week, but you're going to need to reduce your time because you're not achieving your goals. I don't know. If these people truly are your friends, they will understand. There are plenty of distractions. If you're still having problems with the distractions after listening to this, let me know and I'll see if I can help you come up with a plan to minimize them. Not making your goals a priority is another thing. Again, read your goals every day and make them a priority. I think a lot of times distractions, like when we suffer from distractions, it's because we've not made our goals a priority. Giving up, sometimes we give up. But I think giving up should be a conscious decision. It shouldn't be just, I just let things peter out and now I've forgotten about my goals. If you're going to let go of one of your goals or stop working towards it, that should be a conscious decision. You need to stop, reevaluate. Is this goal a priority? Do I still want to do it? If it's something that no longer fits into your life, then delete it from your list of goals. If it's something that you still want to do, but other things are higher priority, then either lower it in the list of priorities, or bump it off the list and save it for next year or in the future. But you shouldn't just randomly be giving up on your goals. It should be a conscious decision to continue or not continue with the goal. And it's okay to make changes. It's okay to reevaluate. I reevaluate stuff all the time. My life changes. My priorities change. It's okay to reevaluate. It's okay to change. It's okay to cancel or postpone your goals. But again, it should be a conscious decision and not just a random giving up. Again, unreasonable goals. Like sometimes we just don't have enough time to achieve all of our goals, which is oftentimes a failure, again, in the planning process. However, sometimes life doesn't go to plan and sometimes new stuff comes up. You might have a health problem, a family member might have a health problem, something might get in the way. And again, that's a time when you need to stop, reevaluate, reprioritize, replan, and maybe bump some things off to next year or cancel them altogether. So all of this is helped by imagining those setbacks and leaving yourself some leeway. So looking at my calendar, it's quite full for this year. However, I've still got wiggle room. Looking at my calendar, January and February are kind of the months where I've got the most wiggle room. Starting from March, I've got a lot of stuff going on through November, let's be honest. October, November, it starts to ease up just a tiny bit. December is quite wiggly as well. I've got more space. But starting in March, I really need to be focused. But again, there still is some wiggle room. Like there's a couple weeks in September where I don't have anything planned. There's a couple weeks in November. So look at your calendar. And I think that's why it's so important to print out. And I'll put a link in the show notes to the calendar that I print. It's on a website called timeanddate.com. And you can create the calendar for your year based on the country that you live in. And the reason why that's important is because you can add holidays to it. So you can add like a little red circle with the holidays automatically added. You can add the moon phases if you want to or not. You can add local holidays, national holidays, whatever. It's very simple, but it's a really easy way to plan your year. And again, I use a highlighter to highlight like all the different dates that I have blocked out that I'm doing these things. So that's that. It really, really helps in the planning process. So I hope you found that interesting and useful. I'm going to wrap this up. If you have any questions, please let me know. I think I've been fairly thorough in explaining how I plan my goals. Again, write down your goals, set your deadlines, look at your goals every day, create your action plan, put it into your calendar. Get help when needed in terms of support, accountability. Celebrate your goals when you achieve them. And all along the way, pay attention to your mindset. Pay attention to the mindset work that you might need to do to make it easier to achieve your goals and to ensure that you achieve your goals. But also be flexible. Be willing to reevaluate your goals along the way. Check your plans, reevaluate your plans, pivot, postpone, make conscious decisions all along the way about whether or not your original plan is still what it needs to be. So maybe also block into your calendar a half an hour or so on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis to reevaluate your plans for the year. However, if you're looking at your goals and if you're looking at your plan every single day, you might not need to block out that time because you'll be seeing your goals and seeing how they fit into your life and seeing how they fit into your lifestyle. And you'll see whether or not you need to reevaluate any of your goals. So, again, that's all for now. I hope you found this interesting and useful. I really welcome any feedback or questions you might have. Please drop me a line and let me know what you thought about this week's episode. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch there. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/338 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.